Why, hello and welcome back to Gemini Shit with a side of coffee. How are you guys doing? It has been such a crazy, wild past couple of weeks for me. And I was sitting here contemplating on what the topic for the next podcast was going to be. And this is what I want. I want you to grab your favorite coffee or your favorite tea or whatever emotional support beverage is getting you through this lifetime and the shift that's happening right now. Because today we are going to talk all about 2026 and why nothing aligning for you right now doesn't quite mean that it's not meant for you. You might be going through a spiritual reset. And I know for some of you, you're like, holy shit, what does that mean? But I want you to relax your shoulders, take a deep breath in, because what's happening right now in your life isn't quite random. And we're standing at an edge of a collective shift. And I think that you can feel that, right? You're feeling all these different obstacles that are coming your way, reflections, boundaries that are starting to resurface. And I feel like it's a soft but loud at the same time type of scenery for us. Plans aren't landing the way that they used to. People are being different. Opportunities feel like they're just so delayed. And I feel like for some of you, I know for me, conversations just feel unfinished. Like you might even feel like you're in between versions of yourself, right? Old versions of you are dissolving, but the new you hasn't fully quite arrived yet. That space is the uncomfortable, uncertain, and the identity shedding space. And it's very scary. And as we move into 2026, a year that it's the universal year number 1 in numerology. And year number 1 doesn't knock gently. And so for this podcast episode, I really wanted to just get into the numerology and what that means, what that looks like for this year, and also tap in a little bit to the Chinese New Year because it's here, right? But before we even talk about that, let's break down what numerology actually is. Because I feel like for some of you, and I know when I first started getting into spirituality at a young age, I would look at numerology and I'm like, what is that? Is this math? Is it astrology? Is it witchcraft? Like, what is it that we're doing here? And it's simple because numerology is basically a spiritual study of numbers. It's a belief that numbers carry energy and that energy moves in cycles, right? Just like seasons, like we have the moon that moves in different cycles, from full moon to crescent moon, it's different cycles. We have seasons that move in cycles from, winter to spring to fall to summer. And just like our lives move in cycles, those numbers reflect all of those phases. And every number from 1 to 9 represents a stage of growth. So 1 is the beginning and 9 is completion. And then the cycle starts all over again. So when we look at a year, like let's take 2026, right? We're going to add all those numbers together. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6, and it equals 10. But in numerology, we have to get to a single digit. So now we're going to get that number 10 and we're going to add the 1 plus 0. And that's going to come to the grand number of 1, which means 2026 is a universal year. And year 1 energy is all about new beginnings. But here's the part that nobody really emphasizes is year 1 doesn't particularly mean that everything's going to be handed to you and you're going to have a fresh new start. You know how the beginning of the year, everybody wants to go to the gym. I think I said this in my last podcast, and then we kind of like fall off that bandwagon. Well, I'm here to tell you that if you feel like you're jumping off this bandwagon and things just don't add up, it doesn't belong in your energetic space at that moment, right? So if things aren't aligning for you, if plans are falling apart, if people are just exiting your life, it doesn't automatically mean that something isn't meant for you. It might mean that you're being repositioned. Numerology doesn't predict doom. It explains timing, and timing is absolutely everything. Sometimes you're not being rejected because you're a bad person, but you're being rerouted into a different cycle. And I know, like, for me, when I get rejected, I feel like, damn, am I really not that good enough? But in numerology doesn't doom us, right? It doesn't say, you're bad, we're not going to give you this opportunity. So, reflecting your ideas, your thought process, how you view things, and rerouting it into a different cycle of not rejection, but maybe, all right, spirit, all right, source, all right, higher power, where are you rerouting me because this is not working? And in 2026, it's an initiation year. 2026 is asking you, who are you becoming? And who are you not trying to be? And I always laugh at this because there's so many people on my who I do not want to be like list. But this is a reset, and resets don't always feel gentle. Sometimes they feel disrupted. They feel like a very harsh moment where you just can't see past the clouds. But it's also a divine alignment that we don't always foresee, right? So in numerology, I feel like it's based off of the idea that numbers carry a frequency, and that frequency carries energy. Just like astrology, astrologists study planets, and numerology studies cycles through numbers. And every number represents a stage of growth. Let's break this down a little bit more deep, because I feel like you're like, okay, back it up a little bit. So what does universal year number 1 mean? This is a very powerful year, all about new beginnings, identity shifts, planting new seeds, and becoming someone new. And it's funny because I heard a podcast this morning and she was talking about planting seeds. But in that transition of like planting seeds, she gave a really good example. And she said, when you plant a seed, we don't instantly see growth. We don't instantly see this seed moving, making progress. We don't see the outcome of that seed, right? Instantly. And we start to just let it, what do? We feed it every day. We give it water, we give it nutrients, whatever you do to your plant to like build that excitement to the day that it finally breaks surface and you're like, oh my God, my seed is finally growing, right? This is kind of the season and shift of planting new seeds, what that year, or this year, I should say 2026, is going to look like. I feel like we don't emphasize enough on what a fresh start looks like. And sometimes I feel like it feels lost and confused, or we see 2026 and we're like, okay, start life all over again. But we forget all the bullshit and baggage that we had with us, that we're just like, it's a new year, new beginnings, new ideas, new version of me, right? And then we get hard on ourselves with expectation because the delays start to come in, the rejections start to come in, the question of why nothing is working. And again, I'm going to tell you, it is a recalibration from spirit. We are being reprogrammed spiritually, and I don't feel like that is kind of instilled in us. And I want to make you believe that you are capable of resetting and restarting over in this new year of the year of number 1. But here's a layer that goes even deeper. So 2026 is also the year of the fire horse in Chinese astrology. And I know because my Instagram feed was flooded with the fire horse, with readings and astrology readings, and everybody just wants to give information about the fire horse. And the horse is about freedom, movement, breaking you out of cages that you didn't even realize that you were in. And the fire element adds the intensity, the passion, the transformation. Fire doesn't maintain, right? It burns away. The fire horse saying liberation, and all you see is the alignment. This year isn't here to comfort you. It's here to wake you up. It's here to move you. It's here to remove the timelines that you are forcing. So if something isn't aligning, if someone falls away, if a business shifts, if plans collapse, that doesn't automatically mean it wasn't meant. It might mean that it just was meant to redirect you to something different. And there's a difference between rejection and misalignment. They're not the same thing. And sometimes something is meant for you, not just in the version that you were trying to control, but maybe the version of you that you are becoming. Now, what do you think of that? The fire horse says, if you're not free, you're not aligned. So 2026 is a reset year, not a punishment year, not a breakdown year, but a rebirth. And you're leveling up. You're not lost. I feel like, I don't know if I shared with some of you guys, but I suffer from powerful migraines. And I had a migraine that was so intense. I ended up at the ER. And prior to that, I had been kind of soul searching, like, all right, spirit, where do I need to go with my spirituality? Because sometimes with Gemini to 11, I fall off the bandwagon. I do have 2 other jobs outside of Gemini to 11, and only for the sole purpose of I find it grounding, right? And I sit very often with my spirit team and my guides, and I'm like, all right, why did you give me this gift if I'm being detoured in other ways? And I sat here for 2026 trying to contemplate, like, where's my path? Where's my purpose? Um, where am I being led to? And I feel like I was doing a million things, and spirit kept telling me, push the brakes, but I'm so involved in so many things that I didn't quite understand or get the memo from my spirit guides of where to pump the brakes. And with this game of life, I feel like we kind of just have to guide ourselves, find ourselves. There's no booklet or directions on how to live or how we're going to live and what that's going to look like and what are the trials and errors and how do we get through them. So I feel like spirit put me in a halt to reprogram myself, to realign myself, to redirect myself in my path, which led to a promotional leadership job. And it's not a 9 to 5. It's not anything that holds me down, but it's a position that I feel like year number 1, 2026, is putting me into that leadership position without me even realizing that it put me into that leadership position. So I want you to reflect on that. I want you to reflect on the stretches that you are being pulled to, and can you handle it? And can you be redirected and understand and find, almost like fine tune it, right? So now I get the memo. Spirit, you stopped me, you halted me because I'm going 1,000 miles an hour to reflect. But it's also at the same time, in Chinese astrology, we're stepping into the year of the fire horse. And I have to remember, just like you have to remember, fire doesn't preserve old structures, right? It transforms it. So the horse doesn't walk slowly towards destiny, it runs towards freedom. So if you feel like me, restless, if you feel like you can't stay anywhere anymore, if you feel like certain spaces just don't fit you like they used to, it's the spiritual movement. You're not falling apart and you're not broken. You're shedding timeline and you're being spiritually repositioned. So I really want you to know that 2026 isn't here to maintain your old fire. It's here to introduce you to the version of you that you didn't chase. It's a version of you that doesn't beg and doesn't force. it aligns naturally. And numerology, it's here. And this is the year where I just want to dive into this with you guys. I feel like this would be a great topic to talk about, um, because it's so transforming, it's so powerful, and I feel like this is going to be a great, great method and eye opener for some of you. I like to encourage you guys to like get readings, get a tarot reading, get an oracle reading, and hell, maybe you might get a numerology reading, um, because things are about to shift. So February 17th was the Chinese New Year, right? And so I feel like for some of us, the energy was intense, it was fast moving. But again, I'm going to keep saying this, it's transformational. And for some of us, that's going to bring independence. It's going to be breaking free from relationships. It's going to take us, to step away from jobs or positions that no longer serve us. But I also feel like this is a year with the horse of travel and like momentum in a level that you don't quite understand. And you didn't quite understand it, but because you are aligning this year, it's all going to make sense. Because the fire element here, it adds the courage, it adds the ego death and the empowerment. But major, major, major spiritual awakenings this year are going to take place. A lot of you are going to change your careers. Some of you are going to go through breakups this year and relationships that are going to end, and new soul connections. For some of you, it's a financial pivot, and some of you, a spiritual awakening. But I'm going to tell you, this is not a slow year. It's a year to run towards your destiny. Give you a little tip. When you are manifesting or talking to your guides and asking for things, um, I want you this year, instead of asking, what do I want? I want you to ask, who am I becoming? Because year number one rewards internal shifts before external rewards. This year is not about chasing, because that fire horse energy says run towards your vision, right? Don't run towards validation. This is so huge because I feel like, especially me, I'm always trying to get validation. Like, okay, Andrea, you did this right. Okay, Andrea, here, this is perfect. And this is the year where the fire horse energy reminds even myself that this is not a year to beg for opportunity. This is a year to refine your alignment so that opportunities meet you. And just like my hospital visit shut me down to stop me, it realigned me and the opportunity met me where I was done chasing. I feel like your body also speaks to you in many ways, because growth shouldn't scare you, right? If it's meant to expand you, it should come with joy and peace. But if your body starts to react in a way where your gut's telling you something, your intuition's talking, your body's just not feeling right, that means that that idea, person, place, whatever situation you're going through at the moment is not aligned for you. And it's important that you understand that through all of this year, there is going to be grief, and not grief like that dark, deep grief, but like you might grieve an old friendship because, cords got cut this year. You might grieve the old dreams that you had or goals that you had. And it doesn't mean that you failed, it means that you evolved. And I feel like, it's all about identity reconstructing this year. It's all about, you know, becoming who you are supposed to be. And when you ask the question of who am I becoming, that question changes everything. Because if you're not becoming somebody who values peace, certain relationships won't align. If you're becoming someone who values freedom, certain jobs won't align with you. But it's important to realize that everything has a frequency. And fire horse energy does not stay where it feels confined. So if you feel restless this year, if you feel like you can't keep performing the same old role, it's not chaos, it's spiritual awakening. And it's moving from survival to peace, from attachment to alignment, from control to trust. And here's the life direction I want you to lean onto. Stop chasing outcomes and start building your identity. Ask yourself daily, who am I becoming? Not what am I trying to get out of this? Because when your identity shifts, your reality starts to reorganize. That's just the spiritual law. And if something isn't aligning right now, instead of asking why is this happening to me, ask, what is this clearing me for? Because sometimes things just don't align, not because they're not meant. Again, I'm going to say that over and over, but because they were meant for a version of you that no longer exists. And 2026 is all about honoring the version of you that is emerging. So when identity shifts, because year one is the energy, right? Our nervous system also reacts because our brains naturally love whatever's familiar, even if it's a familiar thing that causes a lot of stress, even if it's a familiar thing that's misaligned, even if it's a familiar thing that is survival mode. Your nervous system's job is not alignment, it's safety. So when you raise your bar up and you stop over functioning, when you learn to stop people pleasing and you outgrow certain environments, your body can interpret that as danger. Why? Because you're breaking patterns that once kept you safe, right? So that might look like, your heart racing, trouble sleeping, you feel on edge. But the spiritual part of this tells you everything's going to speed up. The fire energy activates from the fire horse this year. And you carry responsibilities, but you need to let go of other people's responsibility. Be ready to be strong. Be ready to let your system or your nervous system know that it's okay to hold emotional weight in the right places or in the right areas. So you're not failing because you're expanding. Your body is just learning to be a different version of you. And it's almost telling yourself, I don't have to survive like that anymore. So I definitely feel like your nervous system, when it gets, readjusted, it's going to go crazy and it's going to say, wait, what? If we're not controlling everything, are we safe? And let me tell you, how many times do you think like that? I think like as a mom, we just naturally think that. Like, are the kids safe? Do the kids have what they need? And I feel like as they get older, for me personally, my high schooler, I'm like, is she going to be okay? Is she going to drive right on the street? Is she going to make good decisions? And that's my nervous system in panic because my brain can't control, my body can't control, but my brain's trying to figure out what is familiar here. And it makes it so exhausting. But I feel like there's just so much that we can do to help alleviate this. And this is not a year to shame yourself from anxiety, stress, hard times. It's a year to rebuild that nervous system with grounding, with breathing, with slowing down, and, allowing ourselves to rebuild at our own pace. So it's important to not be impulsive this year. It's important to know that it's okay to be impulsive as long as you listen to your body. When your body says stop, you need to stop. So if you could take anything from this episode, let it be this. 2026 is not trying to break you. It's trying to introduce you to yourself, your new self. And year one is identity reconstruction. And your nervous system, it's just catching up to the expansion. So if you feel anxious or restless, if you feel like nothing is landing the way it used to, it doesn't mean that you're off path. It might just mean that you're shedding a path that was built from survival. And survival is loud, alignment is quiet. Crazy that I even say that because I just posted a Instagram that said I'm moving in silence. Just because I don't post every day, I am moving in silence. And yes, alignment is silence. This year isn't asking you to prove anything. It's asking you to regulate, to slow down enough to hear your own intuition, and to choose from expansion instead of fear. Stop chasing what doesn't choose you, and trust what falls away. That it wasn't rejection, it was just refinement. Let your nervous system feel activated because you're stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't overfunction, a version that doesn't overexplain and that doesn't overcarry. That's new, and that new might feel unsafe before it feels powerful. But power is regulated, it's different, it's sustainable. So if things aren't aligning right now, instead of spiraling, ask yourself, who am I becoming through this? Because year one doesn't reward control, it rewards courage. And the fire horse doesn't ask for permission to run, it trusts its direction. And so can you. You're not behind, you're not blocked, you're not broken, you're just rebuilding. And rebuilding always looks messy before it looks miraculous. So breathe, regulate, trust the recalibration, and let yourself become. I'll see you next time on Gemini Shit with a side of coffee. But until then, choose alignment over the adrenaline every time. I love you guys. If you want any private appointments, please check me out, Gemini211.com, or make sure you're following me on all social media, TikTok, and Instagram, Gemini211.com. I love you guys so much. Please comment and share this. Love you guys.